Maxine Scates' most recent book, My Wilderness, was published by the University of Pittsburgh Press in 2021. She's the author of 3 previous collections of poetry: Undone, New Issues Press, Black Loam, Cherry Grove, and Toluca Street, University of Pittsburgh Press. Her poems have been widely published in such journals as the American Poetry Review, the Iowa Review, New England Review, the New Yorker, Plowshares, Poetry Northwest, and Poetry, and have received, among other rewards, the Agnes Lynch Sterrett Poetry Prize, the Stafford Hall Award for Poetry, which is the Oregon Book Award, and 2 Pushcart Prizes. We have a little factoid about Maxine. And we all know about the Eugene Weekly was having a little problem here a couple months ago, and we need print. We need print, you know, that you can't just be online. You've got to hold it in your hand somewhere by a window. And so they kind of had a crowdfunding, poorly done, but wildly successful. And successful was the main thing. And I took a look here at the bookstore, first thing, you know, as soon as we saw it. And I saw the number 4 donor was Maxine Scates. Yes, all right, very generous. And so we stepped up and we immediately and offered something. You know, we wound up number 6. But let's have a hand for Maxine Scates.
That's interesting. Who knows what's coming next? It's really an honor to be able to read with all these folks and to be part of this anthology. And I kind of refer to Scott as our great leader. You know, I think our great leader. I think, you know, I would just like to give Scott a big hand. I'm going to read a couple of poems. Several of the poems, 3 of the poems, I think, in this anthology were written during the pandemic, and I'm going to read one of them in a shorter version than it is in the anthology. It's called Ways of Seeing. My neighbor, wearing his mask, was taunted by 2 young men in the grocery store who said, "It's only a virus, old man," which surprised me, as it surprised him, as it does me. And since I'm of an age that means I should be careful for now and my short forever, I wondered what it was those men didn't want to understand. My mask is blue with swirls. Online, I saw a mask with penises. The woman who wore it said, if you could see them, you were too close. But maybe if you are trying to ignore the virus, you think it, like your own fear, will go away with summer, or ultraviolet light, or injections of bleach, or any other household disinfectant we've been hailing for years. Poisons, like fear itself, being so much more familiar, consoling, than the possibilities of science, even as the rest of us still hope, as the signs posted randomly around the neighborhood say, this too will pass, and life as we knew it will resume, and then will we remember what we have learned about being ready when it comes again? Or will life as we knew it mean the owners of meatpacking plants will insist workers still work so close they knock their elbows, while the drug companies make millions from the vaccine? The other day, I found a 40-year-old letter addressed to us in Italy and used Google Earth to find the street in Florence where we had lived. For a moment, I walked down via San Nicolo, and then I remembered somewhere in the hills behind me was Galileo's house. He lived there in his later years under house arrest, sentenced by the Inquisition because he believed the earth was not the center of the universe. And so I stood again, reading the brass plaque on the wall surrounding the house, thinking of how, in his confinement, Galileo might have stood looking through the telescope he had invented, its powers allowing him to see the craters of the unsmiling moon, the moons of Jupiter, and the starred infinite fields of the Milky Way. I'm going to read a longish poem, and I think that will probably be it, because I think it's long enough. It's called Ongoing. It's in sections, so I'll just kind of raise my hand between the sections, some of which are longer than the others. Ongoing. I've never known if it's enough to remember the pattern of the maroon carpet in the entryway at the top of the stairs. How the light from the just opened door fell on the roses, cabbage roses, I think, the kind that bloom on sunny streets a mile or so inland along the central coast of California, whose stems bend with the heaviness of their weight, whose petals fall one by one. A wild iris laid down in the snow. Yellow-headed blackbirds fell by thousands from the sky because someone was there to take a cell phone video of them falling. We hiked in the mountains every summer, sometimes fields of paintbrush we did not lie down in, sweat running down our backs, our dog running ahead to the lake. I slept in the hull of a boat at anchor, water slapping the waterline at night. We sat on an outcropping overlooking the desert below, and suddenly 2 jets blew by, low just over our head, or so it seemed. Sometimes we got lost. The stepping off place, the hesitation. We will never say it as it happened. Whatever we make will be as imperfect as we are, as worn, as broken, as sewn back up. Wikipedia says numbers are open to interpretation, but between 10 and 20,000 civilians have been killed by U.S. drone strikes since 2003 in Afghanistan, Somalia, Pakistan, and Yemen. It's hard to say what a view is like. I'd say this coastline has not changed much in all the years we have come here. The fishing boats line the horizon at night, as always, but this past September, the creek to the south was not running down to the sea from the Coast Range. On a day in April, it is flowing. My dog is starting to run more slowly. This morning, she was chasing the shadows of gulls flying as lazily as kites. The creek to the north is too wide to cross, though there were years we did cross it when we walked all the way to the bay. This morning, a martin, a fisher, was making its way back up from the shore on the other side of the creek. I was early, and so was the animal. No, it was going back to its den for the day to avoid us. Once there was a coyote who asked my dog to join it. Once there was a wolf held by a string. We knew it was a wolf when the man said, "He's not usually so good with dogs." The towhee disappears into the seagrass beyond the bird box. I have not seen a bird enter. At dusk, the dove sings the same song over and over on the other side of the thin wall. Blue gives way to blue. No whales here or in Crete, where we rode motorbikes polluting the air and the ears until we stopped to eat oranges and chocolate under the olive trees high in the hills. Crete, hills as tawny as a lion as the ferry pulled into the harbor at dawn, and the smell of thyme rolled out to greet us. Hours later, a bus left us in the midday heat, and we began walking, lugging our bags uphill. Everyone has memories. They're bringing in a new general, the one they call the Butcher of Syria. We went down to the river because we had not seen it all winter. The river was rushing and high. The sign said no camping. We went down to the river because it was almost spring. Still cold at night, these raw days. Many others were there, walking with their dogs, their children. The babies were bundled. Their parents wore knit caps as they did elsewhere, crossing bridges over rivers, crossing borders. The nuclear plant was on fire, backlit by flares. The mother, daughter, son, and a man who tried to help them cross, dead in the street. Their small dog barking in its crate, their wheeled bags upright. The invaders bombed a maternity hospital. They called the pregnant woman being carried on the stretcher past the charred trees a crisis actor. A man found his 2 cats in what was left of his house, his wife, his daughter, his son-in-law, his 12-year-old daughter in her wheelchair, all dead. In the ruins of the theater struck by missiles where hundreds were sheltered, 130 survived. Thank you.